This video will give you a brief introduction to your student microscope. Your student microscope is a compound light microscope. It's called a compound microscope because it has two different lenses. It has an ocular lens, and you can see by looking at the side of the ocular lens that this ocular lens magnifies 10 times. In addition to the ocular lens, it has 3 different objective lenses. And you can look on the side of the objective lens to determine what is the magnification of that lens. So here we have a 4x objective, a 10x objective, and the blue is a 40x objective. Your total magnification is determined by multiplying your ocular lens times your objective lens. So in this case, we have a 10x ocular and a 40x objective. So the total magnification shown here in this example would be 400 times. Your microscope can magnify 40 times at the lowest power, 100 times, and 400 times. Other things that you should look for on your microscope would include the light source. This microscope is designed to have a light source that comes from the top. So here you can see I just turned the light on. And a light source that comes from the bottom. When you're using this scope as a compound light microscope, you'll want to use the light that comes from the bottom source. And this is because we want the light to go through the specimen and into the objective lens. So almost all of the time in this class, you'll be using this scope with the light source on the bottom turned on. There may be occasions or times you just want to check something out that you want to use the light source coming from the top. This would be when some people might call this a dissecting microscope if we're using a light source that's coming from the top. We might want to make observations of kind of the outer surface of something. For example, maybe you're looking at a fungus and you want to just look at the surface of the fungus. You don't want to look through the specimen. You just want to magnify the surface layer. In this case, you could use the light source coming from the top. I would not recommend trying to use this as a dissecting scope with the 40 times objective. I would only do that probably with my 4x or maybe my 10x. But most of the time, your activities will require you to use the light source from the bottom. There's also a diaphragm. So this diaphragm, you can see me turning the dial here. You might want to play with this a little bit. Normally, we would intensify our light source. We would kind of make our light source column tighter as we get and increase the light as we increase magnification. With this scope, I think you'll want to play a little bit to see which setting works the best for you for whatever specimen that you're looking at. And then, of course, in addition to your lenses and your light source and your diaphragm, we have a stage. And the stage includes these little clips. The stage is where your specimen will be positioned. This is another area where you'll want to play a little bit. I have found that sometimes I like to use my stage clips and sometimes I don't. Kind of depends on how much I'm moving my specimen around on this microscope. So feel free to not use your stage clips if you're finding that it's a little bit easier for you to find your specimen. Play around a little bit. I've actually been having pretty good luck with the scope once I got used to it. So I encourage you to kind of play with it a little. So here we have our specimen on the stage. And I'll use my stage clips in this example. And I also have this focusing knob to kind of focus in on the specimen that I'm looking at. When I'm just starting to look at a specimen, and I just put it on my stage, I always want to start in what I call my start position. So I'll have my stage turned up all the way. So in this case, in my start position, I start with my stage up as high as it'll go, and don't force it. These are pretty, inexpensive and not really strong. So don't force it. This is as high as it goes. Don't try to make it go any higher. And I will have my magnification set on my lowest magnification. So I always begin this way. This is my start position. And I start by just looking at what can I see, and I make sure that I position my specimen under my column of light. And you can be looking through your ocular and kind of move this around a little bit until you see your specimen showing up in your lens. And then once you find your specimen, very slowly move your stage down with the focusing knob until it comes into focus. And some hints here: be slow and patient. I'm not a patient person, so using this scope was initially a little bit of a challenge for me. But now I'm getting the hang of the scope, and it's actually just fine. So be slow and patient. Once you have it in focus at your 4x, go ahead and turn up to the next highest magnification. Look for your specimen. You might need to move your slide around. Focus. And then finally, if you need to, depending on what you're looking at, move it up to your highest magnification, your 40x, or I should actually say your 400x, because it's your ocular times your objective. And then again, do your focusing. Another hint I have for you is to do this in the best lighting you have. So I brought in an additional lamp for my room. I'm just moving my lamp around so you can kind of see. I've also tried sitting in a big window, so I had some good natural light. It's dark outside right now, so I can't do that. But find a well-lighted room, because I think it's going to make it a little bit less difficult for you if you're using a well-lighted room. So that's just the basics on how to use your microscope. I also wanted to suggest that you can make some of your own specimens, and I highly suggest you do that for this week's lab. This is optional for you, but some fun things you might do for this week include getting a mushroom, and this can be a mushroom that you find outside, or it can be a mushroom that you purchase. So this is just a pizza mushroom, agaricus, and what I'll have you look at, if you want, is, you can see I used my safety razor, kind of sliced off one section, and here you can see these gills. And the gills in the mushroom contain spores, and the spores are held on these structures called basidia. And technically the spores that the mushroom has are called basidiospores. So you can get a very tiny, just section of a gill, and I've done that here on this slide. I don't know how well you can see it. But very carefully excise a small little portion of a gill, and what you'll see when you look at this under the microscope is a layer with the basidia and then the basidiospores. And there is a picture of basidia and basidiospores in the fungi voice thread that I posted for you. So this is kind of a fun and easy slide. I saw this pretty easily, and I would definitely recommend you look at that fungi voice thread and kind of tab through. The end of the voice thread is just a lot of pictures. So tab through that until you get to the end, and you'll see the basidia with the basidiospores. Another suggestion I have for you is to make your own lichen slides. So in this week's lab, you're going to have to go out and find some examples of different growth forms of lichens. Feel free to scrape some of those off and make yourself some slides and see what you can see. The The lichen handout that you have, the Lichens of Wisconsin guide, is actually a really excellent introductory overview to the lichens. And so you can look at that and look at the different kind of regions and components of a lichen. And if you're careful, you should be able to see some of those under the microscope. You should be able to identify some of that. Another thing that's tricky but fun is you can actually take a picture of what you're looking at in your microscope using your cell phone. And again, this is a activity for someone that's a little more patient than me. But if you position your cell phone the right way, you can actually get it to look right into your ocular. And some of you might have already done this in other classes. You can get this to look right into your ocular and see, you can see the light shining through there, right? You can take a picture with your cell phone. Now, I'm probably not going to get a very good example here using this video thingy, but you can kind of get the idea. So I'm encouraging you, I know, having our nice lab microscope, yeah, this isn't going to look very good from this example. I know having our nice lab microscopes would be ideal, but the reality is, if you think about all the scientists who came before you, this tool that you have is actually much better than the majority of scientists who have ever existed in the world, right? And later in the semester, we'll talk about a scientist named Anton van Leeuwenhoek, and we'll look at the microscope that he created and all the different life forms he was able to view with this simple single lens microscope. So I think you're going to still have a lot of fun with this one, and I'm encouraging you to experiment. You have blank slides and cover slips. You will need some of those, so I do encourage you to just wash those off and reuse them. But have fun with this scope and make the most of it. It actually is a pretty fun little tool.